Hello everyone. Today we will be talking about the work done on Loktak Lake uh, in Manipur, India. So one very interesting uh, thing about the Loktak Lake is the floating vegetation, which is also known as fumdis. So many people have researched on its biowealth and the condition has been worsened due to a lot of factors. So all these works, research works that has been done so far, we will slowly discuss. So firstly, on the left upper side, there is a map of Loktak Lake, where a small patch of dark blue color indicates the Loktak Lake. So on the Google Earth, you will look, the map looks like this. So the portion, a small portion of the Loktak Lake is seen as a water body. Otherwise, the extended part is covered with fumdi. So the extended part are the permanent fumdis. It has covered the lake, which is floating on the lake, and the small part is the water body that is left in the middle. So the fumdis, they can be temporary or permanent. In the water body that you can see, there are temporary fumdis. People cut it and make into different shapes for fishing purposes. So those are, other than that, there are temporary fumdis that float and move from one place to other. So again, at the extended part, you will see the permanent fumdis which are attached, and they do not move since they are all attached. They are very strong and they are made up of different vegetation which are at the different levels of decomposition. So clearly, or as an imaginary purposes, the total lake has been divided into three parts. Where the upper part is the northern zone, the middle part is the central zone, and the lower part is the southern zone. So talking about the Loktak Lake, the area of the Loktak Lake might vary according to the season. Uh, say for example, in rainy season it can come up to 500 square kilometer, and in winter season it can come up to 250 square kilometer. So the maximum length, we can say it's about 35 kilometer, and the maximum wide is about 13 kilometer. So the elevation of the lake is situated in 768 meter uh, above the mean sea level. So the southern zone is shown here. There is the Kaibul Lamjau National Park, or the only national park that is made on the floating vegetation, or the floating fumdis. So apart from the canopy, there the Angamel and the Kumbi parts means the part small wetlands. So they cover the southern zone. So this is a small description about the Loktak Lake. Secondly, in 1990, the Convention of the Wetland International Importance have drafted a document, or they have declared the lake as a Ramsar site. So it brings, in this way, it brings into an international status for its uniqueness, a rich biodiversity, and its threat. So this is for the purpose of conservation and management. So the dependency on the lake is so much. uh, in and one time, it was more than 12 lakh people that were dependent on the Loktak Lake. So there are different ways of dependency. Say, like there is a dependency of for food, agriculture, irrigation, pisciculture, energy, aesthetic, and then recreational values. So all these are just some of the factors or the dependency of the people on the lake. So another thing is during 1979 famine, the one of the aquatic plants, that is the Trapenatans and Uralferox, these were the only or main source of food that people rely on for their livelihood. So more than thousands of people, they depend on these two plants during such a famine. So like in the earlier slide I talked about the Kaibul Lamjau National Park. This national park is mainly because of the brow antlered deer, or Cervus LDLD, or in other local language the Sangai deer is in threatened status, or IUCN. So they thrive on the fungus of or the floating vegetation. So they extract, they eat, they find foods for their living only in this place. So this Kaibul Lamjau was declared as a status of national park. So again, let's see the pollutants and siltation brought down by different rivers. About, I've not mentioned here, but about 29 to 30 rivers flow flow down into the lake, and earlier many floating huts or were prepared for fishing purposes, and people used to live there. Sometimes they used to be temporary, otherwise people started making more and more floating huts. And what happens is so many building material were accumulated in that process. So there are many municipality waste dumps that has been drained into the rivers and finally into the lake. Likewise, fertilizers, oils, chemicals, pesticides, polythene bags, and then seepage of drainage, and then urban sewage dumps. These are all, flown down from the rivers or the small channels and streams, and then they finally meet into the Loktak Lake. So one of the most polluted river is Nambul River, and it has brought the urban wastage, a huge urban sewage, huge urban municipality waste. So there are a lot of pollutants that has been flown from the rivers, from the nearby channels, and into the Loktak Lake. So again, since this is a wetland, nearby places, uh, people grow rice fields, and then when there is flood, they finally pass down into the lake. So again, apart from that, in the hilly region or in the hilly terrain, because of a huge deforestation that take place in the upper hilly terrain, so many sediments has been flown down, and they are carried down by the river, and if they are flown into the lake. So because of all these reasons, there is the shallowing or the siltation that has taken place into the lake. So let's see what actually happens in a little early time, that is the earlier pollutants and then siltations due to the floating huts. Like what I had said before, the floating foam these, they are very strong and they can hold a small heart, and they can hold a huge load. So like people prepare build huts on it for fishing purposes, and what actually happens is uh, the lower portion of the floating hut, they decompose and they sink at the bottom. So the lower portion of the leg, or in the temperate zones, according to the temperate zones, the leg can be divided into the ventral layer, and then hypolimnion, thermocline, and then epilimnion. So these are different zones that the lake has. And so the mantle layer, it has been accumulated with a lot of uh, decomposed materials, building materials, because of the building huts. So what happens is, slowly they release toxic gases like methane gas, H2S gas. So a lot of toxic gases has been released from the ventral layer, and just above that, the water becomes the dead water. So when the water becomes that water, the dissolving capacity of the oxygen increases, and more oxygen are being dissolved in this hypolimnion layer. So apart from that, there is a layer called the epilimnion layer, where little sunlight is being found. So this layer is the layer where some of the fishes, they really like to survive, or they are also the game fishes. They really enjoy the floating at the epilimnial layer. So this is the layer where a little bit of sunlight is found. So when there is a huge hard made on these places, so the capacity of the sunlight is being reduced. So this is the problem that used to be in early time, when there was a huge floating hut. So let's see again a small comparison in early 1960s to 1970s, and the study in 2001. So in early 60s to 70s, the people used to find a good population of plants like Nilambo nicifera, which is a lotus, Nymphia stellata, this is one kind of water lily, and then Alisma plantago, Sagittaria, Sagittarifolia, Zizania, Latifolia, Orange javanica, Alpinia galanga. These are some of the important wild food plants that are easily found on the Fundis of Loktak Lake, with a very good population. Other than that, there was a very good population of fish species like Channa punctatus, Anabas testudinis, Angelia species, and other fish species like Osteobrama, Belangeri, Mistus, Blickeri. So these are some of the fishes that were found in good population. So in the study that was carried out in 2001, the population has gone steeply. So the species like Osteobrama belangeri, that has come to a status of IUCN in near threatened category, because of the pollutants, because of the different factors that I had discussed earlier. So many of the factors are responsible for the decreasing the population of many species. So fish species like Mr. Blickeri, they are not easily found. And there used to be many migratory birds like the Siberian crane, wild ducks, herons, pink-headed ducks. So again, the migratory birds have largely reduced, and the pink-headed ducks were reported to be found like extinct by the Britishers. So that was the status that was studied in 2001. So more information will be discussed here in the next session. So till then, thank you and very good day.